What is the clearest case of living in denial you've seen? So my sister gets married. Her husband's family are pretty heavy drinkers, and it's the full range of drinks, beers whenever, mixed drinks, straight hard liquor like vodka, whatever is on hand, and plenty of it, 7 days a week, and all day on weekends, holidays, etc. So her husband's brother, late 20s, hits it a lot harder than even the other people in his family. A full handle of vodka after work every day, kind of hard, 4 or 5 over a weekend, all by himself, so he gets sick, not feeling well, tired, etc. But just puts it down to getting older and maybe not handling his liquor like he used to. But doesn't cut back at all. Once he starts turning yellow, he gets to the doctor, who tells him his liver is shot, full cirrhosis, there's nothing left of it. He tells the doc he doesn't know why. He doesn't drink any more than the people he knows, it's a mystery. But he'll stop entirely to get put on a list for a new liver. He obviously doesn't stop drinking, doesn't even cut back. Everyone knows it's the drinking and cirrhosis. But he and his family start calling it cancer. It's cancer. So, the drinking has nothing to do with it. So he eventually ends up in the hospital full-time, because there's no liver for him yet. And his family starts sneaking vodka into the hospital so he can keep drinking. He left the hospital on a slab. And the family starts asking people for money for cancer walks, stuff like that. And not a one of them cut back the drinking at all. X's mom moved to Vegas from Europe. Went broke gambling over 10 or so years. Practically homeless. Then she got injured on a casino escalator, and was compensated more than fairly, with a life-changing amount of money. Guess who went broke again? Pretty much exclusively at the same casino. The casino knew that compo money was coming right back. Nurse who thought the lump in her breast was nothing important, and the open sore appearing was also nothing important, and once it started draining thought it was nothing important. Despite dressing it daily, was confronted by co-workers after the smell became so rank it lingered. Where she went, stage for cancer with mets to bones and brain. Died soon after. She was the manager of the oncology unit. This was a case of living in denial. Once confronted about her odor, she admitted to the sore, but still thought it was nothing. Agreed to go to the ED with colleague, friend, but only to reassure them. Oncologist consulted in the ED and she lost it when cancer mentioned. Insisted on everything done to treat despite no hope. Died within the month. Never left hospital from time confronted about odor. Got a friend. He's in his 50s, makes next to minimum wage. Drinks and eats too much. He and his GF late 60s live with a mutual friend. They're discussing adopting a child. My dad has PSP dementia. My mom refused to acknowledge that it was a developing problem. Because it was an inconvenience to their lifestyle, I confronted her. Because he needed to have his driver's license taken away, because he was a danger on the road. My dad impulsively went out one day, bought a BMW without her present, and later drove it underneath a semi-truck. And shocker, that was when she realized he was unwell. I also had to find out through extended family about his accident, because she didn't want to give us the satisfaction of being right. Buddy keeps complaining that normal guys won't respond to him on dating apps and keeps getting hit on by creepy old dudes. You're nearly 60, and those are age-appropriate matches. I am 43 and am sort of friends, but mostly colleagues with some guys my age, but mostly older. They look their age or older. Nothing insulting. Just it's less likely that guys have taken care of their skin, dress appropriately for their body types, etc. The amount of complaining they do about women that are too old for them is wild. I have a friend who's 50 this year and complained that 35-year-old women look too old. Another guy is nearly 50 and said he's finally ready to settle down and have kids and can't believe he can't find a 30-year-old willing to do the same with him. Almost all of them have 39 as the max age. If they are on dating apps and they grow more misogynist over time, but mostly sad and frustrated. My mother and father divorced 26 years ago. It was a toxic marriage and probably for the best that they part ways. Since then, she has been remarried and is happy with her new husband. We all get along and my parents get along for the sake of visits and being around grandkids. To this day, my father wants to get back together with my mother. I don't blame him there if he still loves her, but the denial part is he thinks he did nothing wrong in the marriage. He is under the impression that he was the perfect husband, and he is doing her a favor by taking her back if she did come back. The reality is he did not treat her well. She left and is now with someone who makes her happy. Friend is an alcoholic and does cocaine nearly every day, binge drinking and doing coke till 7 a.m. Gets winded standing up for too long, but he's fine and not going to die because he is skinny. And got his liver enzyme checked and it was in the regular. My mother, now deceased, refused to wear glasses because she hated how they looked on her. Instead, she insisted her eyesight was not that bad and the fact we had to read menus to her at restaurants was just a cute quirk. Friend diagnosed with diabetes 10 years ago. Has needle phobia, so afraid of pricking his fingers to monitor his blood sugar so doesn't. And just eats healthy due to blood sugar fluctuations. Gradually goes blind and kidney fails. 3.5 years on dialysis. Then finally gets a kidney transplant. Home again with new kidney. Is still afraid of pricking his fingers and decides he will manage his diabetes by eating healthy, just like he did for the past 10 years. My brother is married for the 4th time. My mother blames all his ex-wives. I keep pointing out her son is the common link to all the divorces. I know a guy who tested positive for HIV about 11 years ago. He pretended it didn't happen and did nothing about it. Today he is dying of AIDS. He's not even 40. So sad. My sister wears flannel shirts and has really short hair, and drives a Subaru and wears a Battle Axe necklace, and has a pile of Sports Illustrated swimsuit editions, and a lesbian pride flag in her room, and my mom still hasn't figured out she's gay. My friend has been talking to this man for 4.5 years. They've hung out maybe 5 times and they usually just hook up and he leaves. He only texts her at certain hours of the day because of his work schedule. He never plans dates for them. Or, when she does try to plan dates, he bails. I constantly ask her why she keeps talking to him and if she really believes they could be something more than once an AW. Heil if even that foofed buddies, and she said she just really likes him and wants to be with him. I wholeheartedly believe he has a whole wife and kids. Had a friend who never held a job. Their parents paid for their cars for 6 years of college plus an apartment in a very expensive city for 3 of those years. They also built an artist studio for them. They were convinced that their family wasn't wealthy. My stepdad's co-worker got 3 different vasectomies. His wife kept getting pregnant each time, and he insisted the doctor had somehow botched the procedure. After the 3rd vasectomy, she turned up pregnant again, and the doctor told him, "There's nothing left of your vas deferens. Have you considered she may be cheating on you?" My mom has been a smoker for 40 years. She was diagnosed with COPD. Good news is she can spend $400 a month on an inhaler that makes her feel better. No need to give up smoking, clearly. My elderly friend who has fallen 4 times, already breaking 2 ribs once, a wrist once, and bruised up the other times. He still refuses to use a cane out of some male pride thing. He can't understand that we all age, and if he keeps falling he will end up with a broken hip and bedridden and miserable. Someone who has severe hearing loss, but insists the reason he has to say what all the time is because everyone mumbles. My mom's logic: it's not incest since you both were adopted. My brother is 6.5 years older than me, and **Wally **lested me from the time I was 6 and until I was about 10. Yes, we are both from an orphanage, and were adopted 6.5 years apart. While factually it is true it wasn't incest, The power dynamics absolutely were wrong. That'd be my father. My mother was manic depressive, as it was called back then. She had several major breakdowns during my childhood. Every time, he'd act like nothing was wrong. She'd be screaming and throwing things, and he'd just try to placate her. It never worked. A couple times, I pointed out that she needed to be committed. He always responded that a person couldn't be committed unless they're a danger to themselves or others. True, but she obviously was. I was terrified of her, even apart from the breakdowns. She threw rage attacks at the drop of a hat. Long story short, in my 20s I found out that A, they'd had the kids before me, and B, she drowned them in a bathtub during a psychotic episode. What I never found out was how she got released, or why she was able to conceive me less than a year later. A friend was with me when I found out about B. He told me later that he'd always thought I was exaggerating when I said I'd feared for my life as a kid. I couldn't blame him. It does sound outlandish. After that, it was even more baffling that my father thought we were safe living with her. My sister is convinced she has a mystery ailment that no doctor can diagnose, and that's why she's lost an absurd amount of weight. She forgets to mention the Adderall she's snorting all the time. Had a friend planning weekends away and activities when they were 9 months pregnant and about to drop. Think they were just scared and trying not to think about it. Denial is incredibly useful. So the clearest case I've seen is me and my husband all of 2022. Melanoma went to stage 4. Somehow, he had no pain and felt fine until the last week of his life. We had a great time together. He didn't want anyone to know he was sick until he felt sick. And he didn't feel sick until his last week of life, so nobody knew. He went back up north that summer for a few weeks to hang out with his brother and his friends and go see his mom, and had truly a great time. We did a trip to Mexico, and 2 months later, he was dead. But my goal that year was to feed him everything he liked, as much as possible, and make him laugh. It was successful. Thank you, Denial, for making his last year special.